we're going live, baby. Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. We're on, yes sir, yes sir. Hey guys, how you going? Today on BKRsport, we're here for Power Rankings week number 3. I'm excited for this because obviously the group stages now of the Rugby League World Cup are done, and we can now start focusing on some really close games when it comes to the quarterfinals this weekend. Really excited for that. Obviously we've got some massive games here. We'll just quickly go through these quarterfinals first before we even do start discussing the placings so far. But obviously Australia will be playing Lebanon on Saturday at 5:30am AEST, 6:30am Muppet time New South Wales, 7:30am in Fiji, and 8:30am in New Zealand, Samoa and Tonga. The next game is obviously England versus Papua New Guinea, which I think is going to be absolutely spicy, that one. Really spicy. I think 9-1 odds for Papua New Guinea are actually quite fantastic there, but I still think you can probably sneak it. But still, I think that's going to be a really close game down in Wigan. That's at 12:30am on a Sunday, AEST, 1:30am Muppet time, 2:30am Fiji time, and then 3:30am New Zealand, Samoa and Tonga. New Zealand versus Fiji, also another potentially really close game there, 5:30am on Sunday, so the same day there as the England-Papua New Guinea game. 16-1 odds for Fiji, ridiculous considering they knocked them out of the World Cup the last game, and New Zealand haven't exactly looked wildly impressive. However, you know, New Zealand are definitely the favourites for that one. So yeah, 5:30am AEST there, and then Tonga versus Samoa on 12:30am on Monday. That's going to be an absolutely massive banging game. You're going to need to be here on the channel, guys. It's going to be a huge stream here. Heaps of people are going to be, tuning in for that one. I can tell you right now, that is going to be such an incredibly passionate game between two cultures that obviously have such a rivalry, brothers, but a massive rivalry at that. You know, it's just absolutely going to be one of the big bopping games of this entire tournament. So definitely, strap yourselves in for that one. But today, guys, as you know, we'll be going through the power rankings. Before we do go into the power rankings, though, as you guys may be able to notice in the pinned comment in the chat, plus also if you look at me, yes, I am growing a mo right now. I'm partaking in MOvember, which is a big thing for men's health, prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and also mental health and men's mental health, which you guys know I'm a massive advocate for. Frequently, I'm always speaking about mental health and how much it's important for men to understand that, it's not weak to speak, and just because you're a man, it doesn't mean that you have to cater to how society, I guess, has treated men over the time, that you're not really allowed to have emotions and whatnot. So I really wanted to partake in this event this year. We'll be doing the entire month of November and growing this to be as wacky as we possibly can. I don't know. We'll see how we go. I've never done it before, so I don't even know if I can grow it, to be fair. This might be the max. This might be the max. But if you do, guys, obviously want to help donate, there is the pinned comment in the chat. That's the BKRsport fundraiser to see how much we can fundraise by the end of the month there. So we'll obviously be bringing this up through every video and every live stream because it is such a big thing in regards to what I believe in and what I believe that should be really spoken about more. So no, I think it's a fantastic event that gets put on every November. And let's grow the Mo, baby. Let's grow the Mo, baby. So like I said, pin comment in the chat if you want to go donate to MOvember. But guys, let's get into today's video and let's go through the power rankings from the group stage effectively. We've got to go through the last week of games. We'll talk to you guys in the chat a little bit first, and then we'll go through every single team and where we would place them. But obviously hit that thumbs up button, guys. Subscribe if you are new around here, and let's go see what you guys are saying. Alaga Balzac says, Australia will put Lebanon on the barbecue and have a party with Vorney. Mate, Vorney and a party is something else. When you got Vorney on the tools, you got Vorney on the old barbecue, you got to get Corey Norman hiding under a bed or something like that. You got to have a party, with Vorney. So I understand what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying, and I hope you're right. I hope we do have Vorney as the lead man of the barbecue. Dasmate says, if Lebanon beats Australia, this just puts Karaz as a better fullback all time than Billy Slater. Let's move on from that idiot. Brunswick Jaggers says, if Lebanon win, it'd be a party in Maryland. What's with this Lebanon winning stuff? Since when have Lebanon winning? If Lebanon win, holy shit, man. Like, holy shit. If Lebanon win, that is going to be the craziest time ever. Like, that's one of the biggest upsets I think I nearly would have ever seen. Like, I'm not disrespecting Lebanon there. I'm just saying, like, there's a reason why they're $81 to 1. 81 to 1 in a quarterfinal. Wowee, gee whiz. That is a big margin. Like, to put it in perspective for you, Lebanon to beat Australia are 81 to 1, right? Papua New Guinea to beat England are 9 to 1, which I still think is overs. Fiji to beat New Zealand is 16 to 1, which is massive overs. And then Samoa to beat Tonga is $2.60 to 1. and then you get 81-1. And we're talking about an upset here. Are you crazy? Are you crazy, man? Gee whiz. Gee whiz, you crazy, man. Absolutely. International Beer Review. That's a nice name. Says, hey, Blaze. Hello, mate. How you doing? Jamaica first. That all that matters. International Beer Review says, my prediction is Australia 28, Lebanon 24. A 4-point game. Holy gee whiz, man. Slabber says, what a smexy stash, mate. It's going to grow. It's going to keep going. It's going to keep going. It's doing it for a good cause. So it will keep going and it will continue to grow. Richard says, PNG to beat England and France are a disgrace. Wait, what? PNG to beat England and France are a disgrace. Oh, PNG to beat England and then separately France to a disgrace. That's a bit of a weird comment you made there. But, you know, you did it. You did it. You definitely did do it. I wouldn't necessarily say no to PNG. You guys know what I've been saying this entire tournament so far. You guys know it. You guys know. Chef says, so high for the quarters. Yes, should be a massive weekend. Brighton Robinson says, Lebanon got the rough end of the stick. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They got the very rough end of the stick there, especially after how well they played the weekend. But then again, they did only play Jamaica. And with all due respect to Jamaica, it is only Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? This is why I keep saying with power rankings, you have to take into account who they're playing and what their expected scoreline would be. And I guess this was relatively expected. Probably more than what we expected, but still relatively expected. And I wasn't actually completely disappointed with how Jamaica played either. Scoring 2 tries. That's actually a bit of a negative there on Lebanon, to be fair. Clone Commander says Greece have to be last. We'll see. We'll see. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You do have to take into account a lot of contextual factors, not just one game. John Droll says, Bula Bula Bula, Bula Bula. I'll be over there in Fiji next week. Looking forward to it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Coming back over to Fiji. Now we're talking. Clone Commander says, why didn't Vaughan play for Italia? I don't know. I actually don't know. Vaughan has been going to house parties. That's the reason. That's the reason there. Yeah, someone in chat really did say 28-24 Australia. I know, it's crazy. It's crazy. Jasper says Fiji 26, New Zealand 20. All right, mate, let's do enough of the predictions here, and let's get into the power rankings for week number 3. So like I said, guys, obviously smack that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new around here. But first of all, the bing bong. Well, not first of all, they're actually last. But first of all to go on here is, yes, it is Greece. I'm sorry, Greece. I'm sorry, but you gotta go here. What's going on? Oh, that was a bad performance, man. 94-4 against England. After about 20 minutes, you could have actually thought that Greece might have actually rose in the rankings. But obviously, after that 20-minute mark against England, they just absolutely capitulated, man. Like, they really, really fell off, and it was bad. It was really, really bad. So, you know, they've had an actual... It's funny, though, because they've had an actual not terrible tournament overall. I know they lost 7-2-4 to Samoa, and that's a bad scoreline. The England one was a really bad game, but they weren't that horrible in that game against Samoa. Ilias looked pretty fine, and overall, they actually still gave a shit. I know they conceded a lot of points, but they still gave a shit. That England game, they were done. You know, they were gone, and they kind of checked out for the tournament. Then their first game, obviously, against France was 34-12, which was actually quite positive. But overall, I think that we do have to put them here. The last 2 games, you know, they conceded 94 points this week, and last week, I think it was, 72, did I say? It was 72, so what is it, 94 plus 72 is, 166 or something like that? I could be doing the maths wrong there, but off the top of my head, like 166. That's a lot of points to be conceding in 2 weeks, right? That's more points. They've literally been beaten by the clock across those 2 weeks, right? That's beaten by the clock, because 80 minutes times 2, 160, add another 6 points on. That's how many conceded in 2 weeks, right? So, yeah, really, really poor effort there from Greece, and I don't think you can make too much of an argument for them being any higher than where they are right now. And it's hard because other teams have been pumped, and I would say that arguably the team within 15th has had a worse tournament overall. I would say that overall they've been way more disappointing, and overall they've been a lot more, I guess, not great in the slightest, and a bit embarrassing in regards to the standards that they would normally have. But I just think that the 2 scorelines there you can't kind of hide away from. You can't hide away from 166 points in 2 weeks, and if you want to actually add in that France game to start off with, I'm pretty certain that's what conceded 200 across 3. What was it? It was 34-12. Yeah, exactly 200 points. Exactly 200 points. Exactly 200 points across 3 weeks. If I'm doing the maths right there. So, man, yeah, you can't hide from that. 200 points across 3 weeks conceded. That's a big yikes. So we'll see what you guys are saying. Clothing Man says Greece would have lost to Burundi that day. They were that bad. Bright Robinson says they gas or just start not giving a shit. I think it would be gas. So I kept saying this on the streams too. The thing with these other emerging nations, right, like a Greece, like a Jamaica, like a what other teams? Scotland? No, I wouldn't even say Scotland like that. But Cook Islands. Cook Islands still. Most of their players aren't NRL level. Point of the matter is that the emerging nations, right, they don't have a lot of players who play week in, week out footy at a top level, right, like the NRL. So you're never going to see Australia gas. You're never going to see New Zealand, even England with their Super League, obviously. I wouldn't even necessarily say that France collapsed because of the fact that I know they lost 62-4 to Samoa, but there's a lot of context involved there. They didn't gas. It was just that Samoa were too good for them, and that was because obviously they still have a heap of guys in the Super League. Papua New Guinea is an interesting one, but they're a very different story as well, because obviously they don't have a great deal of talent in the NRL, but geez, they didn't falter today. 36-0 win over the Welsh. So yeah, look, I think it would just come down to the fact that they didn't have enough. Their bodies aren't still going from a tournament, and the NRL only finished up. This is the crazy thing. The NRL only finished up about a month ago today, right? So up until yesterday, we were still in the same month the grand final finish. That feels really strange to me, but that's the point. All these Panthers boys and Eels boys and the guys who made the finals in the NRL, they played week in, week out, and their bodies could take that extra length rather than the other guys who just got slapped for 3 weeks. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't think they didn't give a shit. I just think that they got outplayed late on, yeah. Junior Lamb says, Tonga vs Samoa will be a cracking game. Absolutely, bro, absolutely. We'll be here. It's going to be crazy. Rich says, Greece were done like a Savalaki. Dasman says, Greece to ban Rugby League again. Not it. Daniel says, I think Greece will improve a lot by the next World Cup. I agree. A new domestic league coupled with players that seem to actually care and want to win is great to see. Well, yeah, like I said, I think that Greece wanted to win. I don't think there was anything wrong with their care factor. I just don't think they obviously just weren't good enough in that game. They just weren't good enough at all. And England have a lot to prove right now. People are still doubting them, and fair enough, but people are still doubting them. So it's a home tournament. They need to win well, and that's exactly what they did. And to be honest with you, the problem with England, right, and we'll get to England in a second, is that their first 20 minutes of games are not good. So we haven't actually seen them come up against like an Australia and New Zealand, obviously, even a Tonga to an extent, even Papua New Guinea this week. So I'm really looking forward to see. I know they played Samoa, but Samoa had no World Cup preparation whatsoever, right? So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they got in that first 20 minutes against a good team, because so far they've actually been pretty disappointing. Even against Samoa, they were disappointing in that first 20 minutes. So I don't know. We'll see how they go. But that'll be, I think, it for. I think that'll be it for Greece, because obviously we don't stick too long down here on the bottom edge of the power rankings. But in number 15 here, guys, we do have the Scottish. Yes, we have the Scottish here. And I was saying just then that, look, I think that overall the more disappointing tournament specifically would actually go to Scotland, because they I guess that they are an emerging nation with play. They don't really have many players at all from any big leagues or anyone like that. But they had Ewan Aiken, I guess, but that's not going to do much. It's still just a back rower. Overall, they were expected to do a bit more. They were expected to beat Italy and at least somewhat, they did somewhat compete with Fiji, I guess, besides Lachlan Walmsley being an absolute flog. But, they lost to Italy 28-4, lost to Australia 84-0, which is to be forgiven because it's Australia. And then Fiji 13-14 in their most competitive game. The only reason I've actually got them above Greece is because of that relatively close game between Fiji and Scotland. Because up until the last, 10 minutes of that game, or 15 minutes of that game, it was a 10-point game until Lachlan Walmsley decided to be a grub. And this is the thing that annoys me with Scotland. I don't actually feel sorry for them in this tournament, because in their 2 games against Australia and Fiji, when it got to the 60th minute mark and they started to realise they're going to lose a game, they got really grubby and really dirty. It was really strange. And especially when it got to that Fiji game, they were really coming into tackles. Like, Lachlan Walmsley has the softest right arm in the business. Like, coming with a high tackle, but it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's stupid. He got sent in, and he really cost them a chance to win that game, because Scotland were in the game. But obviously, they lost that game 30-14. And overall, I just think it was a really disappointing tournament from Scotland. So, look, I think that I genuinely believe that they would beat Greece. It would be close. I think that I think the team of 14, which you guys probably do know already, but I think the team of 14 might actually beat them. I'm not even joking, and you'll get to see them in a second. See, England choke is the best feeling in the world. Malcolm says Scottish is a surprise to me being so bad. Yeah, exactly right. I wouldn't expect them to be this bad. Like, they've been bad, man. Klein Man says Scotland performed better than Jamaica, though. I disagree. Jamaica suffered bigger losses than they did. Context, perspective. I disagree completely. Daniel says, 2 separate World Cups would be great. An emerging nations World Cup of Italy, Scotland, France, Greece, Ireland, Jamaica, Cook Islands and Wales would be pretty competitive and fun to watch. I guarantee you that 3 people watch that. I guarantee that 3 people watch that. I would be one of them, but there'd be like 3 people who watch that. You still need to have the big teams involved, but just have, I guess, maybe a different setup. I don't know. Tonga Man says, Scotland actually drew against New Zealand in 2016. I don't know how they fell off so bad. They did fall off very, very badly. Because you've got to realise here with Jamaica, they had no expectations. No expectations. They were expected to get pumped by even more than they did. But they actually succeeded in breaking that mould and not getting beaten by as much as everyone expected them to get beaten by. So you do have to weigh that into account, right? This is a very different team to Scotland. And Scotland very much underperformed. And Jamaica actually overperformed. So, yeah, I disagree with you. Brunswick says, what's good? Richard says, the Olympics do it well. When the groups are done, the lower teams from each group play each other on where they finish in the final standings. Yeah, it's like the sevens. It's like the sevens, yeah. Saturn Girls says, really disappointing from Scotland. Didn't expect them to leave with no wins. Would have thought they'd at least win against Italy, but they still got pumped. Yeah, well, you know, Italy were 5-1. I did tell you guys that I thought Italy were going to win that game. And Italy did win that game. But I don't think they were expected to be Fiji or definitely not Australia. They definitely weren't expected to beat Fiji or Australia, but they were expected to be made a lot, even more competitive than they were against Fiji, is what I'd say. Because I still think the entirety of the game, you knew Fiji were going to win it, right? But with Italy, yeah, they got pumped, and that was a really, really poor one. Meladala says, hello, good luck to all nations next week. Oh, it's going to be big this week. It's going to be big this week. So Michael says, hello, Talofa, Bulavanaka, Malolale, Kiora, and Kirana. Exactly right, exactly right. Jamaica 2025 World Cup champions. You're a muppet. You are a muppet. Alright guys, let's move into the next one here and let's go into an obvious one, which is going to be Jamaica. I actually had a lot of fun watching these guys this tournament. I had a lot of fun watching Jamaica in this tournament. And as I just said, yes, they lost by bigger margins than Scotland lost by. However, Jamaica were actually quite impressive in their games. They had a much more difficult group in my personal opinion. I think that New Zealand and Lebanon and Ireland are 3 teams that are at least quite decent. I know Ireland kind of fell off a little bit, but Lebanon's a really solid team and you know, in the mix with Fiji at the moment. And then New Zealand are obviously the second best team in the world, right? So Jamaica, they weren't expected to score a single point in this World Cup. They actually ended up scoring 20 points in this World Cup, which is impressive for them. This is their first ever World Cup. They've never really been a team before. By the way, their logo is mad. I only just saw their logo. It's really good. But, you know, I think that this has been a really positive performance here for Jamaica. We had a few Jamaicans in the chat for the Jamaica versus Lebanon game on the weekend, and I kept saying to them, don't give up on this team. You know, there is potential here. There is really genuine potential here. It'd be great if they could lure Dom Young, but obviously I don't think that's going to be happening there. But the point of the matter is that they do have potential if they focus on growing their sport in their country. And I was really impressed with how... you know, they actually gave a shit in their game, so they really pushed it in the Ireland versus Jamaica game. Ireland-Jamaica game was probably their worst game of the lot. I actually thought they played pretty well against New Zealand. My handicap was minus 72.5. They only lost 68-6, which is, you know, 62 points. They beat the handicap by like 11 points or whatever. And then the Lebanon game as well, that was a blowout, but at the same sense they scored 12 points, which is never expected for them. So, no, I thought Jamaica had a positive tournament. Yeah, look, they got beaten by bigger margins, but in the same sense, I think that their tournament, and I genuinely believe that right now Jamaica would have a really good opportunity of beating Scotland. I'm not even lying to you. I would not be surprised if Jamaica had the audacity and ability to actually go and beat Scotland. Not even joking. Not even joking. Sasha Kells says, a lot of positives to take from this World Cup for Jamaica from what was expected from them. Absolutely. Jared Ford says, I really want to see Samoa have their greatest World Cup ever. And all stuff says Jamaica should be very happy they scored 3 tries. Absolutely. 3 tries and a penalty. Get around them. Yeah, exactly right, Melbourne. Jamaica scored a try versus the Kiwis. Exactly right. Jamaica scored a try versus the Kiwis. Did anyone expect that to happen? Absolutely not. The handicap, like I said, was minus 72.5, and people thought they were going to get 100. 100. Although New Zealand have underwhelmed in this tournament so far, they've done well. They've done well, Jamaica, to do what they've done with their group. Client Commander says, to give credit to Jamaica, they have a lot of domestic players who play in the island. That's what I'm saying. It's their first ever World Cup. This is why I say context. Context matters. Melee Taylor says, yeah, I'm Tongan and I hope Samoa do good this World Cup, but hopefully Tonga can bring it home or make the semis. Well, you shouldn't want Samoa to do good this World Cup because you played it this week. What do you mean? You cannot have Samoa doing well if you want Tonga to win because you play each other this week. I do get it though. Whoever loses this week, you'll end up supporting the other team throughout the tournament. But you cannot be nice. Not nicety right now. Stop it. Don't be nice now. Oh no. Do not be nice to the opposition now. You have to try and get that win. And shock the world. Become the first Islander team besides New Zealand, obviously, to win the World Cup. And I wouldn't even really I'm not classing New Zealand as like a New Zealand, Samoa, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, but still technically an islander team. Justin says the short kickoff is so good. And also the short kickoffs, they are literally the best short kickers in the game. They are the best short kickoffs in the game, Jamaica. If you didn't watch their games, I'm telling you, I feel sorry for you. Because they, honestly, I remember that game against New Zealand, it was like 11 out of 12 short kickoffs they won back. Like they won 11 out of 12 short kickoffs. They're like the American team in the sevens a couple of years back. My goodness me, unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah, my lord, their short kickers were beautiful. Mate, it's incredible. Look at them go. Look at them go. Absolutely phenomenal. CJ says, I'm curious, are you Greek? I am not Greek. If you're asking me about this, it's because I'm doing MOvember right now, as you can see in the chat. But no, I am not Greek. Oliver Samson Marley says, if you were to mix the Tonga 2017 squad and the squad, would it be a good team? Well, yeah, both teams were good, so of course if you mix them both, they would be even better. CJ says, been on and off your streams of the World Cup and lovely commentary and take and everything. Appreciate you, CJ. I appreciate you, CJ, for that one, mate. We'll be here for the finals too. It's going to be a big one. Largo Ballsack says, Jamaican Uni experience. Biggie Shack says, are you basing your ranking of Jamaica and Scotland off their performance, taking into consideration the expectations they had pre-World Cup? Not judging, just curious. I am basing it on the fact that I genuinely think that right now, Scotland don't have any ticker in them, and I think Jamaica have ticker in them. I believe that they actually have the ability to win that game. And I would say that the World Cup so far, well, the World Cup with them, the expectations, there were nothing for Jamaica. The expectations, there were a little bit there for Scotland, and they superbly underwhelmed, and Jamaica overwhelmed, is what I'm saying. And I genuinely believe that Jamaica would care more to win that game than Scotland. For some reason, Scotland seemed like they just didn't care this World Cup. Truly, it just didn't seem it. Even in that game against Fiji, where it was relatively close, they didn't seem like they gave a shit, you know. And they threw it all away in the last 15 minutes as well. It was really something. And says, I agree, the short kickoffs were great and they managed to get them back too. Brighton Robinson says, Greek, gee whiz. Yeah, well, on these streams over time, I've been called Greek, someone called me Jamaican the other day, which is outrageous. Someone called me English, I've heard that a lot. Kiwi, obviously Fijian though, but that's because, you know, I'm always talking about how much I love Fiji and how my family's Fijian. But I'm not actually technically blood Fijian. But I guess, well, if you class my daughter, then yeah, she's Fijian, but I'm not specifically, right? But yeah, we get a lot of people. I mean, who was it? What was another one? Argentina? I think someone said I was from Argentina or something like that as well. We've had a heap. Sam Tenori said if Lebanon had two strong forwards, I think they would be a top 10. Well, we'll get to Lebanon in a second, but let's move on to the next team now to round out the bottom four here. And we have, bada bing, bada boomski, we have Wales. Now, if you actually watched the World Cup, you would know that Wales, their scorelines were close, but they just were really bland. If you watch the NRL, right, which I assume most of you do, I would say that Wales would be the comparison of the St. George Illawarra Dragons, right, where they are competitive, but they're also quite shithouse. I'm not going to lie to you. You know, they're just really bland, boring kind of play. Really didn't appreciate their halves this World Cup. Ollie Oles and Josh Ralph, I thought they were pretty average, especially both of them were average as each other. Yeah, they lost 18-12 to Cook Islands, but we all know what the Cook Islands were like, and they shouldn't have been. Cook Islands shouldn't have been making that close, but just showed how poor Cook Islands were in this World Cup. Then they lost 36 to Tonga, which was, like I said, competitive, but bland and never looked like they were going to win the game. Actually scored first, though. But then the game this morning against Papua New Guinea, they just never were in it, man. They were never in it. And they are the Dragons of the World Cup. Like, they are a team that defensively are okay enough, and they were okay to watch, but it's just super bland, man. Super bland. And I just didn't really see a great deal of positives for them going forward, especially in their attack. They had no attack. Like, look, in the 3 games, they scored 18 points. And it was a very competitive pool, this one. Like, Pool D was probably the most competitive pool of the lot. But yeah, really underwhelming tournament there from Wales. And although I wasn't expecting much from them, it just leaves, the way they played just left a little bit of a bad taste in the mouth. And I remember the coach coming out before the game this morning against Papua New Guinea saying, I hope it's raining and cold, because obviously Papua New Guinea weather's not like that. That's cool. It was raining and it was cold, and they beat you 36-0. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. I just wasn't impressed with Wales at all in this tournament, man. I wasn't impressed with Wales at all. Angus Murphy says, don't worry, bro, you're Fijian. Mate, I basically am. I'll be there next week. You know, toss a bit to get around it. Colin Command says, Wales did alright for a team of plumbers and shelf stackers. A very disrespectful comment, but alright. Ollie Olds and Josh Ralph, I know what you're saying though. Ollie Olds and Josh Ralph, both, it's like saying Farmers League for the French League 1 in Europe football. Ollie Olds and Josh Ralph both play local league in Brisbane. They aren't even in the Queensland Cup. Geez, there you go. Well, there you go. Yeah, I'd never even heard of them before this World Cup. Biggie Shack says Jamaica scored more points than Wales. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. That's crazy. Yeah, Jamaica scored more points than Wales, and Jamaica had a. Would you say it's harder? No, I wouldn't put Lebanon above Papua, and I wouldn't put. But I put New Zealand above. I don't know. That's crazy. But yeah, look, that's crazy. The thing about Jamaica did score more points than Wales. That's even more depressing there for Welsh fans. Colin Command says Ollie Oles and Josh Ralph get paid a creaming soda and a pie for winning a match. Unbelievable. Malcolm says he's 49% Aussie, 50% Fijian, 1% Muppet. I would say there's more Muppet there than that, but there you go. Richard says to think Wales in the semis in 95 and 2000. Yeah, that's 20 odd years ago though, man. 22 and 27 years ago. I just want to remind, to put this perspective for you, when Wales made the semis was the same time that Australia had won the Bledisloe Cup. Now we're talking, right? It's been like 21 years since the Australians have won the Bledisloe Cup. Well, cool. It's been 22 years since Wales won the semis in 95 and 2000. And the tournament was a lot less professional back then for the international game as well. Obviously, it was mainly just Australia then. Now we've obviously diversified. We have a bit more of a Super League. And I understand of the pre-professional World Cup era of Great Britain and France and whatnot, but that's, 70 odd years ago. That's around when Parramatta last won a premiership. You know what I'm saying? So, point of matter is, Wales, not good this tournament. Not good and really, really bland in my personal opinion. But alright, let's move into number 12. And that is going to be, bang, Cook Islands actually drop. Oh no. Oh boy. Oh no. The Cook Islands, they do actually drop a spot here. It might be controversial, but this was a superbly bad tournament here with the Cook Islands. They lost to Papua New Guinea and Tonga, which is to be expected. And Papua New Guinea won, they were never in it, but the scoreline shows it was kind of close, but they were also never in it, and Papua New Guinea played really poorly that game, 32-16, still scored 32 points to Papua New Guinea. Obviously, they won that first game against Wales 8-12, but they were expected to win that game by a lot more than that, and it literally came down to the last play for Wales, and they had an open try line, but Wales were Wales and didn't know how to attack. So that's an even more. It was actually more of a disappointing win than it was a electric win, exciting win. That was not a good game for them. Don't start with the 92-10 game because that was one of the most ridiculously dumb games I've ever seen. Like, that was really poor. I thought Tonga played fantastic. As you guys know, I do YouTube Shorts now, and immediately after the game finishes, I film a live review that goes for a minute, and I chuck it onto the YouTube Shorts. So if you want to know my true opinion of that game, you can go and check that out. But yeah, look, I thought Tonga were great. I had some comment on my stream afterwards saying I don't like Tonga. I like Tonga. I really would love Tonga to win this World Cup. I'm Australian, also Fijian, but I want Tonga to win this World Cup. I think it'd be amazing for the game. Them or Samoa. You're fantastic. So I don't understand why people would think that. But the point of the matter is that there was a couple of bad calls in that game that went against Cook Islands very early days. But that doesn't change the fact that they won by 92 points to 10, right? So Cook Islands for me, emerging nation, give them 15, 20 years, maybe there could be something really positive. They've got players like Valentine Holmes and Joe Martin who could make the switch eventually, but that'll be when their career is kind of done with Australia and New Zealand, right? So yeah, look, I think it was a really poor tournament for them, and I definitely warrant them dropping below the 10 that I just put above them. I definitely would. Melee Talar says Mel's did alright. Well, that's the point. Dragons did alright this season. It wasn't great though. Jad says Bet's coming home next year. Clone Man says Cook Islands were disgusting against Tonga. Oh man, the Cook Islands were bad. Oh, bro, the Cook Islands are bad against Tonga. My God. Rod Wave says Greece. Why are you saying Greece like that? It's a great movie though, Greece. That's a great movie, Greece, but we're talking about Greece, as in, the Greeks. It's a country. Clone Man says, BK, you were right. Eastside Masters was laughing after the match against Tonga. Maybe, but if you're talking about the photo of him and David Feeder and Moeka Fodawaker, that's a little bit different. That's just smiling for a photo because they played with each other on the Titans. That's not really what I was talking about. When he did it with the Cowboys, he was full on just making jokes and laughing around with Jason Tamalolo and the likes. And yes, I get he used to play for them, and yes, I get he's mates with them, but go to the sheds, get off the field. Don't make me see that when I've just seen you concede 3 tries in your wing. And we've just conceded 40-odd points. You don't laugh in the middle of the field while we're getting slandered and slaughtered on the fans and on the sideline. I get for you that it might be just about the money and the job and whatnot, but for everyone else, it's a bit more passionate and it's about life. And people care a lot more. So that's why I took so much disrespect in what Isan Must was with the Titans. A little bit different with what he did with the time. Rich says, well, there you go. A bit of South Africa about them. James Paul's love the YouTube shorts. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Well, it's good that we can get them going now as well. So people who don't get to watch the full streams, obviously, they're at ridiculous hours. And we'll do them for the FIFA World Cup as well. Sasha Gellin says, I saw that Tonga smashed Cook Islands. Was Isan not playing? Oh, well, Isan was playing, alright. Robway says, swear they put all the worst teams versus the best ones. I feel like this World Cup was designed. I feel like this World Cup was definitely designed to make it an Australia versus England final. Or an Australia versus Tonga final. Because I don't think the numbers will be there for a final of New Zealand versus anybody else. I don't. I think that they designed it so Australia can play New Zealand in the final, and I think that they want it to be Australia-England or Australia-Tonga because that will pull numbers. I think so. Daniel says, I think any team besides Australia win the World Cup would be good for the game. Us Aussies will still watch NRL even if we lose the finals. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything else here about the Cook Islands? Not really. Let's move on to the next one. Here. Number 11. And we've got the Italians. Yes, they move up one spot here, which is quite funny considering they did still lose on the week by a big margin to Australia. But it was Australia, and I don't think that Italy were actually that bad. I thought their defense was quite fine in that game. They lost 66-6, which was I guess better than Scotland, who lost 84-0. I actually thought that Italy were quite fun to watch this World Cup. Their most disappointing game was actually the game against Fiji, where they lost 60-4. But 28-4 win over Scotland. Not many people saw that besides me, but not many people saw that. 28-4 win there. Jake Mason looks good. The team wasn't that bad, and like I said, 66-6 for Australia is an impressive one for them. Australia should feel disappointed in that result. Like they get a win, whatever, but they should feel disappointed they conceded a try to Italy, which they shouldn't have been doing. And I just think that was a positive game for Italy. So I'm happy to bump them above the Cook Islands, who conceded 94 and looked like the worst team on the planet on the weekend, to Italy, who at least have a bit of something about them. Like I said, their worst game was definitely that game against Fiji, but the other two games were actually positive results for them overall. So I do think that right now Italy, I personally believe right now Italy would beat Cook Islands. I think right now Italy would beat Cook Islands. Debbie says, only thing I've got to say about Cook Islands, you guys get thrashed by Tonga. They did. Giancarlo says, the more tests the developing nations have against each other and higher level teams, the better they become. I think right now, man, it really is going to come down to, it's only really fresh of guys like Taumalolo and Andrew Fafita who made that change to Tonga back in 2015 that really reinvigorated and created the international game to what it is right now. Those two guys can actually say to themselves, we actually made this international game a bit more competitive on a bigger level for these teams. But that's only specific teams, right? Tonga, Samoa, Fiji, Papua New Guinea, these teams there. But when we're talking about the emerging nations, as you're saying, like Cook Islands, like Greece, like even Lebanon to an extent, Jamaica and whatnot, it would be fantastic if players like Dom Young next time decided, no, I'm going to play for Jamaica. But then again, it really does come down to how competitive that team can be, because you're not going to go to a team that's going to get beaten by 100 points every single time, right? So yeah, look, I think that it is great for the game that these players are starting to switch and go to these other places. Australia can win the World Cup with the C team. I'm throwing this out there. Sorry to be disrespectful to anyone who thinks that's disrespectful, but Australia does have the ability with the C team of, if you want to be technical, which is actually strangely a little bit racially incorrect to say guys like Valentine Holmes aren't Australian, and who's another one there? You know, Josh Papali'i, when he was there, now he's gone to Samoa. It's racially incorrect to say that just because just because they look Islander, that they're not Australian. It's not really acceptable, but it gets away in the game, I guess. But the point of the matter is that it's great to see guys like that choosing to go over there, like Josh Papali'i, for example, and Junior Paulo and whatnot. So look, I think that this is the path that we're going down, and it's great for the game. But we are still at the very beginning of that, very beginning of that. Demi says, I read that comment. Rodway says, can you do a World Cup food competition? Can I do a World Cup food competition? What do you mean? RXC says, you couldn't have been more right about Amon. Katoa is clear. Well, as I was saying, I think Isaiah Katoa is much better. I think Amon is definitely the guy. It's got to try. And cool you scored a try, but overall Amon's not great. Asai Katoa for me, and this is the thing, goes down to the Dragons. I don't think anyone on that Dragons team right now should be selected for a World Cup. I really don't. And it's like there are worse teams than the Dragons, and there are better teams than the Dragons, and there are good players in the Dragons, but none of them right now are in a stage where they should be in a World Cup. They're just all very, very, very superbly average, and that's the whole point of the Dragons right now, just a really plateau team. Daphne says Italy didn't do too bad with the only World Cup that country is in. Hey, Baramubedi man, gee whiz, don't be too insulting to my Italians. I've got the mo right now. I've got the mo. Don't be too disrespectful to my Italians. I know said Viva la Italia. I think that's half Mexican, half half. I don't know what's going on here. Clingman says, honestly thought Italy should have put up a better fight against Fiji. Absolutely should have. Angus Murphy says England would be skewing one of the tier 2 teams make the final instead of them. Yeah, but you could really debate. You can really debate. I know that Tonga was classed as a tier 1 team, and they've reneged in it. So, I know Tonga's a tier 1 team. They are. But then again, that's fine. It's what separates them, I guess. Richard says Serbia must play every second week then if they that high in the rankings. Yeah, crazy. They're in 8th position. We found this out in the weekend. Serbia are ranked 8th, but yet got beaten by Greece 94-0 or some shit. It was mad. Giancarlo says those emerging countries could look to New South Wales, Queensland level coaches to come in and develop NRL-like systems in their nations. Also, Christian Wolf, he was originally at the Burleigh Bears and then he's made his way up and he's now the coach of Tonga. I agree Australia has good depth with quality players. Giancarlo says just like how France is appointing Trevor Robertson as their director of rugby, slow but progressing moving forward. Absolutely. And it's just like Michael Cheika with Lebanon. How good's that? I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Cheika actually ended up getting an NRL gig sometime soon. I wouldn't be surprised. Mele Talbot says, yeah, mine is not Isai Katoa, way better by miles. But other than Ben Hunt, yeah, you're right, Robertson. Ben Hunt's one of the only players to play World Cup. Yeah, I would agree with that one. Jack Dempsey, I will stream the women's rugby games. I will do the World Rugby League games for the women's games that I think start tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. But let's move into number 10, guys. Let's move into number 10. And we do have being the Irish. I think this is where they were last week. Yes, because I don't think I would have been putting France above them. So we've got Ireland here, who started off well, but they started off well against Jamaica. This is what I literally said to you. I said to you all at the start, this is Jamaica. They're expected to win this game, and they didn't actually win by anywhere near as much as they probably should have won that game by. For a first game ever, shouldn't have been conceding for one, and secondly, should have been winning by more than 46 points. So that told me right there they were going to be unimpressive. Their best game of the tournament was probably the game against New Zealand. They lost 48-10, but they definitely weren't good against Lebanon. They made a billion mistakes in that game. You could make an argument that best game of the tournament was against New Zealand, or if you want to go with the 48-2 win, that's cool. But it was Jamaica. Anyone should have been expecting to get that win. Obviously lost 32-14 to Lebanon. Lebanon's a very good team. I don't know how, in what world, in what reality, any betting agency had Lebanon below the Irish. It was the Irish were favourites that game. I said to you guys, get on that because that's a clear and out Lebanon win, and they did do that. It was very obvious. And the New Zealand game was 48-10, which is still a disappointing win for New Zealand, which we'll get to. So yeah, look, I think that Ireland, I think a lot more people expected better. They had the likes of Jimmy Donovan and Luke Keary, but Jimmy Donovan was out for that final game. Luke Keary was good first game, didn't do anything for the rest. So yeah, disappointed with the Irish, and I think this is probably, they're still going to beat all those teams below them. The Irish right now would still beat every single team below them, Italy, Cook Islands, Wales, Jamaica, Scotland and Greece. But I don't think right now they'd be beating anybody else. They might have a good chance against the team above them. Maybe a chance against the team one spot above them, but that's about it. Jean Carlos says Ben Hunt, Jaden Sewer, Moses Sully. Not Sully and not Sewer. I'm a big believer in Sully, but I still don't believe Sully. These players have been really good for the Dragons in their respective nations. Sully hasn't really done much. Jaden Sewer has not done anything. Ben Hunt's actually had a really underwhelming tournament too. I'd say all three of those, I'd say maybe the best of those three guys in this tournament has been Sully, but realistically all three of those guys haven't had a good tournament, specifically Ben Hunt actually. I haven't really seen a great deal from Ben Hunt at all. Harry Grant's been the real big guy there for the hooker department for Australia. Clonkerman says the Irish are the most disappointing team in the comp. The Irish shouldn't have lost by 30 to Lebanon. Well, they didn't. They lost by 18, but the point still remains. I know what you're saying. The point still remains. Brunswick Jagger says Scotland takes that title of most disappointing in the World Cup. It's between Scotland and Ireland. It is between Scotland and Ireland, but I think that Ireland were always going to finish here. I think Scotland would have expected to finish around this area of the power rankings before the World Cup did get underway. I think they would have expected to be around this area. Big Check, did you see Rory Hargrave's high tackle on New Zealand Ireland game? I did. Centenary says Lebanon would have put 100 on Jamaica if Moses plays second half. Absolutely, I agree. Tulip, please don't spam, bro, otherwise you will be timed out. Richard says Rory Hargrave's at least one high tackle every game. Alright, let's move on to the next game. Clinton makes Benon's overrated. Okay, that's a stupid comment. We definitely need to move on now. Alright, number 9, and we get to the French. I got even be French with this mo. I got even be the French. Je m'appelle BKRsport. Je suis, but there was not much je suis in this World Cup. They were also pretty disappointing, realistically. I think that people expected a bit more from them as well. They did win that game first game against Greece 34-12, but Greece actually came out of that looking probably better because Greece weren't expected to be even close, but they only lost by 22 points, which is actually quite impressive for them. France didn't put anyone to bed. Obviously lost to England 42-18, which was probably their best game of the tournament, especially considering that it was 18-12 before a really bad call went against them. And England obviously ended up winning that game by a decent amount, but it was 18-12. England were always going to win the game regardless, but it was a bad call that really screwed them in a great momentum push just after half time. But yeah, 42-18, they'll take that one against the English, but they were expecting to get a lot more against Samoa and lost 62-4, which was superbly disappointing for them. And Samoa really cleanly, despite the flaws of it. And I couldn't believe it. There were so many people in the chat saying, "Oh, France are going to win this. France were sneaky to win this. Cheeky, get on them." I said, "You muppet, you stupid. France is not going to come close in this game." And, lo and behold, they didn't come close in this game. But yeah, look, Samoa, different breed, England, different breed, and should have been putting Greece away. So I'm happy to keep them down here. I still think they'd beat Ireland, but I think that's a close game. So I think you could kind of interchange those two right there. You could just do which one you want. Shev says, explain how. In regards to USA, I think we're Ben Hunt, but Clinton says USA aren't good enough. No, we know that, but they can be if they really put the effort into it. Giancarlo says, Scotland, Ireland, Wales and France league teams were as good as their union counterparts, a way more competitive comp. Yeah, of course. Absolutely, their union teams are very good. However, Scotland's, Australia just beat them for one. Ireland, good, but none of those teams have won a World Cup, mind you. France have actually been in 3 World Cup finals and lost all 3 of them. And the Irish have actually never made a semi. I don't think the Ireland's never made a semi-final in a World Cup. So this is the thing people don't realise, right? Those 4 teams there, everyone's like, oh, they're good, but Ireland never made a World Cup semi-final. I don't even think Wales have made a final. Scotland, don't even start me. And then France, they've made 3 World Cup finals and lost all 3 of them. So although grass is always green on the other side, those 4 teams are not successful. Biggie Shack says, weren't France in that game at England at 18-12? They were, yeah, they were close, but they were never going to win the game. Dasmate says, would have won the Dally M if he was on a good team, but overrated. Okay, buddy. It's absolutely right. If Ben Hunt was on a different team, he would have won the Dally M. JBJ says, I can't have a winner, Tonga or Samoa, hard to pick. We'll talk about them later on. Can the Mills score another double? We'll talk about that later on. Richard says, France really outdid themselves in this World Cup. Just terrible. I can't believe it. I know that most play for Catalans and Toulouse, but disappointing. Absolutely, man. Swerve says, it's hard for USA to make a rugby popular sport here because we've got football, basketball, baseball, soccer and hockey. So I don't disagree with you on the sense that rugby league, and I would say rugby league over union, but I would say rugby league is actually a decent market if the time zones matched up. But it's because the time zones don't match up. Right now in Chicago, it's like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, right? And this is when the NRL would start. We'd be starting in 5 minutes time for an NRL game on a Friday night or even the Saturday night games. All the games are at terrible times. American sports for us are a good time, but our sports at night are at woeful times for America. So that's the biggest reason why rugby league will not really be able to grow in that country on an international scale. Because I guarantee you, I've been to America, I've been in Chicago, New York, LA, Las Vegas, San Francisco, all these places, and everyone I speak to always says, "Oh, that rugby game's an awesome game to watch. It's awesome. They run into each other, with no pads on. It's just amazing. But we just can't watch it." And it's just like, I get it. I understand why. Because it's difficult to get up for my baseball at 4 in the morning for Chicago. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think that it really does have the ability to. But just it's the time spent. It's the time zones, and you can't fix that unless we change the world. We cannot fix that. It's literally not fixable. And to go to Paul, I really smashed the France all the way back to 9. Yeah, absolutely. But alright, I think we move on to the next one unless somebody else has something else to say about France. yeah, there's support here that starts to rise. Well, I agree, absolutely. There is definitely support there. But alright, let's move into the top 8 here, guys. Now, obviously, before we do, obviously hit that thumbs up button, smack the thumbs up button, and subscribe if you're new around here. And don't forget, obviously, I am doing MOvember, which is all about men's mental health and men's health in general. There is a link to donate to the BKRsport fundraiser. We're going to be doing it the entire month, so it is in the pinned comment over there. $5, $10, whatever you can, obviously do support the cause. It's a great cause for men's health and specifically on my mental health, absolutely, because I'm a big believer in, big advocate for that. But let's move into the top 8 now. Let's move to the top 8, and in number 8, we do have a hard one here, which is the Lebanese. Now, obviously, these 8 teams are all in the quarterfinals, right? So they're all up here, and it's very hard to differentiate. It's really, really hard to differentiate between these teams, especially from like 5 to 8, I would say. 5 to 8 is very, very difficult to just remove that comment. And very difficult. It's very difficult to differentiate between 5 and 8 for me. But I've put Lebanon here because I still think they're going to lose to most of these other 7 teams, if not all these 7 other teams. I think that they're a good team and a really solid team. I have them in the sweepstakes, so I want them to win. But overall, I still think they're going to lose more games than they will win against the teams above them. They obviously competed well against New Zealand, 34-12, were 1 metre away from scoring a try, tied up at 18-18 before Joey Manu decided to go ham. Obviously 32-14 against Ireland, we all knew they were going to win that one, and then a big win against Jamaica, 74-12, but it was still Jamaica. And realistically, for the first half, they didn't really do a great deal, but the second half, they really put the sword down. I think it was the first half. Second half, they kind of... Yeah, that's right. First half was fantastic. Second half was very disappointing. But they still went 74-12. But Mitch Moses also went off. They rested a few players late on, so I get it. But overall, I don't think they go above the teams above them. But that doesn't mean that I don't believe they couldn't beat them on any given day. I think that anyone in the top 8 could beat anyone from 8 to 3 on any given day. I would say 8 to 3, and even maybe 8 to 2. I don't think 1, but yeah, and we're about to find that out. We're about to find that out this week. And one of the team that we're talking about right now is 81-1 in that regard. But yeah, look, Lebanon, they're a very solid team. It's harsh to put them down here, but I don't see them above the other teams that we're about to be speaking about. JP Jason's thoughts on Meninga's statement saying he may pick both Clear and DCE. Ask me when we get to Australia section. Mele Teller says, yeah, I lived in the States for 3 years. My family and rugby league has gotten popular around there. It's popular in a sense. It's just not going to... It's never going to be on a level of NFL. Never. Because Americans love strategy and structure and tricking the opponent, which is the whole continent, what they prefer up there. So, and that's not really what rugby is in general. But they enjoy it. They definitely enjoy it. Giancarlo says, Ireland are currently ranked world number one in the world. That's cool. Never made a semi-final in their history. France number 2. That's cool. Also never won a World Cup because they've been in 3 World Cup finals and lost all 3 of them. Wales number 7. Yep, that's also cool. That's not great actually. Number 7 is not fantastic. And Scotland number 9. That's too low. The Wallabies are number 6. All Blacks number 3. Yep, I'm aware of that. But the Wallabies have won 2 World Cups. The All Blacks have won 3 World Cups, and South Africa have won 3 World Cups. There hasn't been a different World Cup winner besides New Zealand and South Africa since 2003. And in that World Cup, it was England, who obviously went to extra time against Australia. Before that, no European team, no Northern Hemisphere team had ever won it. There's only been 3 teams outside of the Northern Hemisphere. There's only been 1 team outside of New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa who have won a Rugby Union World Cup before, and that was England 2003. So it's been 20 years since a team that besides those New Zealand and South Africa have won. How competitive is that? And this is what I'm saying to people. They don't really get it. Like, I understand everyone wants to pick on rugby league. I'm not saying you are at all. I'm just saying, like, there's a lot of people who like to pick on rugby league for having blowouts and the just repetitive winners. It's like, same thing happens in union. And effectively, the same thing happens in football, but at least it's still differentiating between European countries. But it's still Europe that's happening in football, and we will see some big scorelines. Just wait for that Saudi Arabian group in the FIFA World Cup. You will see. You will see. No way Lebanon is 8. I disagree, Sam. Who would you have them above? I don't think you beat any of the teams above right now, but I think you can on any given day. But I still think that they're definitely not higher than this right now. They're definitely not higher than this right now. JP Jason, do we return a 5-8 if Kraz returns? I would assume so, yeah. Lebanon have arguably the 3rd best halves pairing in the comp with Moses and Dewey. It's definitely arguable, yeah. You'd definitely say that Cleary and Munster, even if you want to say Cherry Evans and Munster, are number 1, and then second would be New Zealand, obviously, which are Hughes and Dylan Brown when they're healthy. But I still think there's a big gap between the New Zealand halves and the Australian halves. And then there's another gap that will probably drop down to You could make an argument for it, but like England's halves are still pretty good. I'd say probably England 4, and I would say Lebanon 3, realistically. Yeah, Mitchell Moses and Adam Dewey probably would be 3. But I do think that Labour and Lamb from Papua New Guinea really do take a step up when it comes to the World Cup and playing together. So I would make an argument for Labour and Lamb to be around that top 5 area as well. Just not individually, not when we're talking about NRL and whatnot. I'll put Lebanon on 6 minute. No way for me. No way for me. JBJ says, can Lebanon compete with Australia? Like, I can obviously see your name looks very, very much like you're a Lebanon fan, which is fine, and I understand that you're probably biased towards Lebanon, but as a non-biased spectator, I was going to say I don't know what I was going to say. As a non-biased spectator, no chance. No chance. It's close, but right now there's no way you can put Lebanon above them. No way you can put Lebanon above the next 7 teams. Right this second. Jordan says France at home will be tough. That's still rubber union. Sam Tenori, but they will be. Yeah, they'll be very good. Sam Tenori says, well, they only lost by 2 points against Tonga last World Cup. That's cool. This is 2022, and in that World Cup they were solid, but in the same sense, they still lost. Right, and I think that they have a chance to potentially beat Fiji, and they could potentially beat Tonga, and this is why I said they could be Lebanon third. I'd even say second, which is I won't tell you, but second through 8 can all beat each other on any given day. But I don't think that we all know who's first, but and we'll see it this week. But I'm just saying, I don't have Lebanon above the other teams, and we'll start very soon. To go to Fiji to upset New Zealand, I think it's a potential. Richard says England won thanks to Johnny Wilkinson. Don't start me, you muppet. Dad says now Lebanon's fine where they're at. Clunkman says France in 2025 should be given the easiest group to make sure they at least make the quarters. I would love that to happen. I'd love that to happen. But let's move on to the next one here. And we'll get into number 7. Number 7, and that is going to be the Fiji Bati. Yes, sir. Fiji Bati have been pretty good this World Cup. Pretty good. Obviously, actually, I'd say their worst game was against Scotland, but their best game was definitely against Italy. Had a good game against the... sorry, I just got an email saying, hello, do you understand English? No, mate. No, I don't. Having to deal with the chat sometimes. Definitely wish I didn't. But, Fiji, obviously, against Australia, they played pretty well. I know the score was 42-8, but they actually did really, really well there against a team that's obviously the best in the world. Against Italy, 60-4 win there. They looked really good. Really, really good in that game and really put the sword to the Italians. Were disappointing against Scotland, 30-14, but I think that's because they checked out and they do this thing that the Islands do all the time and think they've already won the game. And this is a very specific Islander thing where they already believe they're too good for their opponent. And I keep referring to Fiji versus Uruguay in the 2019 Rugby Union World Cup where Fiji thought they'd already won. A lot of my mates are in that Fiji team. Like I know the guys who are in that Fiji National Union team in 2019, and it pissed me right off because a lot of them believed that they'd already won that game. And that's the issue. And that's something that I saw with the game against Scotland here for Fiji in the Rugby League that was a real detriment to how they looked in that game and overall in the tournament. But I still think that they beat everyone below them, and I still think they could beat anyone on their given day besides Australia. I truly do. So, they played New Zealand this week. I really give them a good chance. I give them a good chance. I think 16-1 odds is fantastic. I think 16-1 odds is fantastic. To be jumping on there if you are into the old gambalon. Richard says England. No, don't talk to me about that. Clunkman says I read that one. Bata Stret says Lebanon got smoked by Fiji last World Cup. There you go, absolutely. And it's still last World Cup, but yes, that also that's also a factor to weigh in. Desmond says, you're lucky I don't time you out, Richard M, after that comment. What's he said? You should have, don't do it, but don't you dare bring up Johnny Wilkinson, you muppet, that guy. Tell ya. Cloggman says, Fiji have always lacked in the halves department, not Fiji, the islands. Samoa, Tonga, Fiji. All three of them. And I would still make an argument I'd say Samoa was, this halves pairing for Samoa is probably the best halves combo we've ever seen for any of those island teams. And they're obviously still a little bit of a step down. But I would say that overall, that is probably the best halves combo that we've seen in a very long time across Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, and even Papua New Guinea if you want to throw them in there too, Cook Islands and whatnot. JBJ says Corona needs to go back to hookies on a 5'8". whilst that's fair, Panioni Tangi has had a really good World Cup in that number 9. He's had a really good World Cup in that number 9, and I don't necessarily want to move him out of there. So they've got no 6. You can chuck him into that 6, and you can chuck Tangi Tuimua there into the 9, unless you want to put Tangi Tuimua in the 14 and Cotter start at the 9. But I think that Tangi Tuimua was playing pretty well on that number 9 there. I really do. Zane Potter says, I reckon Wales could possibly be lower than Jamaica, but I mean, it's probably ridiculous to think Jamaica should be even 13th. I think Wales beat Jamaica, and I think that on their defence alone, they beat Jamaica. But I can see where you're coming from, though. Sam Finnery says, Moses needs to run the ball a lot more. Clone Command says, Fiji should get a team in the New South Wales Cup, like how PNG has a team in the Queensland Cup. Hey, that's crazy. Maybe they should call them the Kaiviti Silktails. Oh, wait, they do. The Kaiviti Silktails are in the New South Wales Cup. Fiji do have a team in the New South Wales Cup, my friend. They do. But alright, guys, let's move on to the number 6 team here, and maybe a bit of a surprise. Are you ready for it? Hold on. The team that's dropped here, I do have, oh boy, we've got Papua New Guinea here in number 6. Yes, they have gone from 5th to 6th on my power rankings. Now, let's go through why I say this, because I think this is very controversial. But Papua New Guinea are a very good team, and they have looked very positive in this World Cup so far, but I'll explain why I've got them dropped. So they've obviously played Tonga and they lost 24-18. I believe they should have won that game. I think they're the better team in that game. I think you do that game again and Papua New Guinea win. Actually, no. I think Tonga probably win, but if you want to be honest, that game was a robbery. Like, Papua New Guinea got rorted out of that game. The refereeing, Liam Moore, dickhead, right? 24-18, very positive loss there for Papua New Guinea. Second game, they beat Cook Islands 32-16, which is a decent result. Nothing too spectacular though. And then the game against Wales was a 36-0 thumping in wet weather. I was really impressed with Papua New Guinea today. Now, the reason why they've dropped is not because of their playing, and it's not because of their games. It's because the other team, that you guys probably can assume who it is, has gone up because of how well they've won their games and bounced back from a loss. I think that pre-World Cup, this is where you probably would have had Papua New Guinea, and I don't think there's too much of a heavy debate to put them above anymore. I think that last week and before that, absolutely, but I think that they've kind of just gone back down into where we know they probably should be. Can they beat the teams above them? Absolutely. I think that they could probably beat everyone up until England. I think they could, yeah. But overall, this is a very well-balanced side. I love what Papua New Guinea provide. I think they've got a really good halves pairing. I think their backline's phenomenal. They're missing Xavier Coates. I think Nixon Putt's been great. Their forward line's been fantastic. Fantastic in this World Cup, Papua New Guinea, and I've loved every bit of Papua New Guinea in this World Cup. But I think we're going to be realistic here, and I think if they're going up against the team above them, I think the edge would go and the favouritism would go to the team above them. But it doesn't mean I think they're a bad team at all. It doesn't mean that at all. David J says, do you think there will be internationals next year? Yes, after the season, a tour of England, 4 nations. I'm pretty certain New Zealand are actually touring the Northern Hemisphere. Zampras says, but do you think Jamaica would beat Scotland and Greece? I do. Yeah, I do. Right now, I believe they would. If they were in a group, I believe they would have. Yeah. Richard M says, PNG have a well balanced side. Exactly what I just said. Yeah. David says, Clone, they joined the New South Wales Cup in 2023. Absolutely. Sam Potter says PNG have been very underrated, but I think England are probably going to smoke them. I actually disagree. I think PNG actually could be sneaky to upset the English this week. Do they win? I don't know. Like, the favouritism is absolutely with the English. They're $7 to PNG 9-1. I think Papua New Guinea should be about 4 or 5 to 1, maybe 5 to 1. I think those odds are a bit ridiculous, but overall, yeah, I think that Papua New Guinea actually do have a chance to beat England this week. I think their physicality is really going to... I don't think England's really been met with physicality. That first game of Samoa was not a physical game at all. Samoa had no pre-game warm-up, no World Cup warm-up matches and whatnot compared to England, who did a home game, first game, World Cup, prove it, England smacked them, right? But I do think that Papua New Guinea are a much more physical team, and the passion that will be shown here, I think this could be the upset. I think if there's an upset this week, this is the big one that could potentially happen. JPJ says, Olam, and people are going to call me crazy until it happens, you know what I'm saying? Olam should be PNG captain, not Reece Martin. Why? What's the difference? Like, why? Jared Ford, why? Remind me, please, who is Fiji's coach? I actually don't know. I'm not even too sure who Fiji's coach is, Jared Ford. Someone in the chat can let us know. Fundraisers, the PNG forwards have been so good. They have been. I have been relatively underwhelmed with Jacob Alec, who is a Gold Coast Titans representative who's from Tweedheads, I believe. I think that he's a better player than he's shown. I think he is. But then again, he's a back rower by trade. He's not a lock by trade. He's been playing lock in this World Cup. He's actually a back rower. I wouldn't necessarily mind seeing him on the bench for the Titans. But overall, I think that their forwards have been pretty good. I just think that he's been a little bit underwhelming overall. To go, so the whole team plays like Olam, just hard and straight and fun to watch. It's fantastic to watch, absolutely. Justin says, PNG win. I've actually spoken to Justin about that before. He's on the vlog. There's a vlog, Storm, actually, you can go back to it. 2019, the week after the Eels beat the Broncos 58-0, I then went down to Melbourne to vlog as the Eels took on the Storm in Melbourne in the second week of the finals. And the Storm won that game like 32-0 or something like that. And Justin Olam was on the vlog, and I said to him, you run the ball, like, you just don't give a shit. You just throw your body at the line. And he says the exact same. He's just like, I don't care. I'm playing for my country. And that's the playing. Even for the Melbourne Storm, he's playing for his country. Even at Melbourne Storm, that's how passionate he is about his country, and that's how passionate Papua New Guineans are about Papua New Guinea. So it's a fantastic culture that they have built around rugby league in that country. Very dangerous country, and this is why there's nervous kind of thought processes about adding in Papua New Guinea into the NRL. But they are a fantastic country in regards to the support they show. 6-8 says, PNG slow down the fast play of the ball. PNG have a good chance. Absolutely. JPJ says, they need to give Olam more ball. He's unstoppable if he gets space and room to move. He's actually had a pretty disappointing World Cup, Justin Olam, overall. I think it's because Papua New Guinea as a whole have been very well balanced, as we've said. But Justin Olam specifically hasn't exactly had the best World Cup individually, I would personally say. NTK Production says, Ngutalik to burn Dom Young. Jimmy Ngutalik has been great. I really liked Jimmy Ngutalik today against the Welsh, and I think that overall Jimmy Ngutalik has done a good job compensating for Xavier Coates being out. Because obviously, guys, you've got to remember, Xavier Coates got injured in the warm-up before the first game and will not play this World Cup, which is, really, really poor, unfortunately, for Papua New Guinea, because he's a really good winger, obviously. Malik Taylor says, all nations played with heart, so better luck next time to those who didn't make it to the finals. Whilst you're correct, Papua New Guinea is different. I would say, whilst you're correct, Papua New Guinea is here, Tonga would be just here, and then you'd kind of get the whole rest of everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a clear difference between Papua New Guinea, Tonga, and then everybody else. Big Shakes, what do you think would happen if PNG won the World Cup? Oh, I'm scared for their country. No, their country would burn. Their country would burn down. It would burn. They would riot for a good. They would riot because their countries won the World Cup. It would be an incredible moment. It'd probably be more incredible than any other team winning. I think Papua New Guinea would be the best team to win for the moment, the scenes, but I would be terrified. Absolutely, and I legitimately say terrified for the people of their country. I would be terrified because I saw how Philadelphia in America, a first world nation, right? A first world nation in a big city in America, I saw how they reacted to winning the Super Bowl for the first time back in 2018, I think it was. 2018, 2017, one of those years. Anyway, Dad's mate, you know, because obviously they slapped your team. But the point of the matter is that I know what a first world nation celebrates like in that circumstance. Papua New Guinea, it's terrifying, man. It's terrifying. Hunter, this is the first NRL off-season watching you, Blaze. Do you do player moves to different clubs and that sort of thing during off-season? Usually I do different sports, but I can do stuff like that. I actually spoke to Clarky the other day, so you guys know how Clarky does his every single day. He'll post the latest news. I'm thinking about doing once every couple of days. We've got the FIFA World Cup after this, which will be hectic, but once every couple of days or once a week, collecting all the biggest news that came from that week and doing one of these chats with you guys. But we'll see where we go, because obviously this will finish and then people will start to not care about rugby league for about a month and a half, 2 months. Rugby league on YouTube really dies from about halfway, usually dies from the first week of October through till halfway through January. It will die after the World Cup for about a month or so, but I will do at least one video a week to keep updated with all that kind of stuff, Richard says, PNG have rugby league on the front, back and middle of the paper every day. Mate, PNG is just rugby league. That country is just rugby league. Laurie Ngingatau says, imagine if it were to be a Tonga Samoa versus PNG semi-final, who do you think would win? That's a really good question. Because the next one here is about to be the other team there. That's a really, really hard question to answer there, Laurie. I would say right this second, I'd probably take Samoa. Right this second. I would. I think their pace would outdo it. But then if Papua New Guinea locked down the pace, then they get it done. But I would say right this second, I'd say Papua New Guinea. Let's move on to the next team here, because obviously a lot of people will care about the next one, and that does relate to that question as well. And that is going to be Brabing Samoa. Samoa. They go into 5th, which is actually going up 1 spot. As I said, the reason why Papua New Guinea dropped is not because of Papua New Guinea. It's because of Samoa and how well they've really bounced back from that first opening game against the English. Obviously, they lost 60-6 against England. Disappointing game, no pre-World Cup warm-up matches, no nothing. They just kind of went to that willy-nilly thinking they'd already won. Islander mentality. But then they went and absolutely slapped Greece 72-4, and then they slapped France 62-4. So in the space of 2 weeks, they scored 134 points and conceded 8 after conceding 60 and scoring 6. That's a very big turnaround, very good turnaround. And although they were expected to do it, it's a very good turnaround there. I think the Samoa have a really good chance against Tonga this week, and I did keep telling you guys, even after that first game against England, I keep saying, this team, they're a momentum team. You build with their momentum, right? So I get that loss in that first game, it could have actually been the best thing for them, in a weird way, right? Because I'll tell you why. The first game, Samoa went in thinking they'd won. They got brought back down to earth and said, listen, you got to train harder, you got to work harder, you actually got to give a shit about this game, because otherwise you're going to get slapped. So what they did was they did that, and they worked harder. I still don't think Joseph Suwali is a fullback, but whatever. You go to the second game, they absolutely slaughtered Greece, and then they're like, oh, wait a second, okay, now we're feeling good again. I want to feel this feeling. All right, now we're bounced back. You know, we're in the winning momentum. Let's get another one here against France. It could be a hard game. France still have a chance to make the quarterfinals over us. Let's go and pump them. Bing, they go and do that. And now they're up 62-4. They win that game, they're like, well, shit. All right, now we're taking on our biggest rivals, but we just won 2 games in a row by massive scorelines, and we're feeling good about ourselves. We've got that momentum, you know. We're Panthers boys. A lot of them are Panthers boys. We won the premiership. We're the shit, baby. So they've got this kind of thought process now that they know what it takes, what it means to like, you have to realise your opponent and understand your opponent and how quality they can be. And they will not be coming into this Tonga game under not thinking about how good Tonga can be. Plus, they've got the momentum. So that's why I really think that Samoa have a very good chance of upsetting Tonga this week. A very, very good chance, because I know how much of a momentum team these guys are. And it's scary for Tongans, because this is going to be a really close game. It will come down to the wire. If you guys are not here in the stream, you're going to miss out on a huge stream, because that is going to be a crazy, crazy time. A crazy, crazy time on the channel. We're going to be on nutso. It's not on a terrible time at 12:30 in the morning for you guys for you guys in Samoa and Tonga. It's actually on at like 4:30 in the morning, which is even worse. Or 3:30 in the morning. 3:30 in the morning, which is worse. But the fact of the matter is, everyone in Tonga, Samoa, and all over will be watching this game. JBJ says, it's the same quarterfinals as the last World Cup. 2 of the finals are the same, but in 2017, Australia played Samoa and Tonga versus Lebanon. There you go. Clone Commander says, the PNG government doesn't have the money for a professional NRL team. Hey, yeah, well, right now they're currently getting into bed with China, so they'll have money. Jasper says, after Christmas, you could do a bit of Premier League. Yeah, but I'm going to give the early mornings a break over Christmas. I think that obviously this last month, plus the next month of FIFA World Cup, I'll probably come back to do Premier League content January, because I'll really want to kind of just kick back and just film a few videos and do a few streams and whatnot in that Christmas break. But yeah, that 2 weeks or that week after the World Cup, 2 weeks before January, is going to be a real refreshing period for me, because obviously my body clock right now is all over the shop, man. And obviously I'm doing this fitness program too. I'm 16 days deep now. 16 days straight. Obviously, we're going to do 75 days straight. That'll finish up around just after Christmas. So, yeah, I'll really be taking that week or two to kind of refresh myself for that 2023 season. Nigel Payne, he says, bro, we woke up early today all over the country to watch on the TV just to see our team play. It's enormous for us. I know, Nigel. I know. I'm one of the biggest advocates. I think I'm probably the biggest advocate for your country on YouTube and in regards to content creation across the platforms, because I really emphasize how much you guys do care about the sport and how much you do care about your team. So absolutely, I know about it, man. I know all about it, and I love Papua New Guinea. I would love to go to Papua New Guinea to, do... clinics and whatnot, just to give back to the community there. I would love to go to a game there, whether it be the Hunters or the Kummels or the NRL team that eventually potentially comes in there. It's eventually at this point. I don't know when, might be longer term, but it'll eventually come in. So no, I know all about how much you guys care about it, but in the same sense, bro, I've been up every morning, every single game. My body clock is gone. So my question is, someone need to tweak their defense, but they can definitely put points on the board. Well, mate, they only conceded 4 points, 8 points across 2 games. 8 points in 160 minutes to Greece and France, which is expected, but still, I'm just saying, that's still pretty decent. Big Sharks, maybe they needed the 60-6 drubbing to keep them grounded. Well, this is what I'm saying. That could really have been the best thing for them, because it then meant to them that they know that they can be beaten, they can be slapped if they come with the wrong mentality, and then they turn it around and realise that, plus have the momentum. So now they've got that understanding of what it took to lose that game 66, but also now what it takes to win by 130. Sorry guys, I don't know what just happened, but for some reason, we just got cut off. We're back now though. Don't leave if shit like that happens. I think that's just OBS telling me that maybe we should move on to the next team here, because we could talk about Tonga Samoa for literally 30 years. But alright, let's move on to the next one here, which is actually, funnily enough, going to be the boys, Matama Tonga. There we go. So that's why I was okay to move on as well, because I knew that we're going to keep talking about it. Tonga in number 4. For them, this has actually been a disappointing World Cup so far, but they had a very good win this weekend. So they should have lost that game to Papua New Guinea. I'm not going to lie to you. They should have lost that game to Papua New Guinea. They won 24-18, but 32-6 win over Wales. Disappointing game there. Even if you want to take that win 24-18, still a disappointing win there against Papua New Guinea. And then their big win against Cook Islands on the weekend, 92-10, was absolutely fantastic. They really, really needed that one. I said this before last week. I said they need to get a really, really big result there against the Cook Islands. Otherwise, it is going to be a really hard task to see them get past Samoa in this next game. They did that. They looked exceptional. Loved their spine, loved their forwards, loved their backs in that game. Still a lot of work to be done for me, but 92-10 was a great result there. Yeah, look, they played Samoa this week, and we're speaking quite a bit about it. Like, if you look at this right now in timestamps, guys, and you listen to what we're saying about Tonga, also listen to the Samoa section, because obviously we spoke about a lot about Tonga in that too. But yeah, it's going to be an absolutely fantastic game this weekend. I can't wait for it. So I think the loss helped them realise this World Cup isn't a cakewalk. Absolutely. Zan put us to Samoa at 10. Big scoreline. That's big. Colin Commander says, everyone Deception Bay will get crazy. Samoa win. Officer Samson says, do you think Tonga has a better full pack than Samoa? By a lot, yes. So the way that I think this game will go this week, I might even film a specific preview for the World Cup games, but the way that I feel like this game will go, right? Matama Tonga have a better full pack by a long way, and I mean a long way, right? You're comparing the likes of Jason Tamalolo, David Fafita, Kolo Matangi, even to an extent Homoliola Kawatu, Mawaki Foraweka, like this forward pack here, Sia Takiaho, to Papali and Paulo, but also like Jake Stewart. Who's the other ones? Let me have a look here quickly at Samoa. Don't worry, Samoa, I'm about to give you a positive thought process in regards to your team, but I'm going to kind of shit in your forwards here a little bit, because they aren't what Tonga's forward pack is. It's just a fact, right? It is. Well, it's not fact, but it's a solid opinion based on some pretty heavy advice, is what I would say there. Let's go have a look here. So their forwards: Junior Paulo, Royce Hunt, Lingy Sao, Jaden Sewer, and Oregon Kafusi. You know, with the bench being Josh Baliti, Spencer Lenny, Martin Tapau. That's a decent forward pack. Don't get me wrong there. But let's go to the Tongan forward pack in comparison. Tongan forward pack in comparison against the Cookies, which I believe he might have had a couple of players rested in this game. But the Tongan forward pack in comparison, bing, let's go down here. While I do this, obviously hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you're new around here, guys. But their forward pack, they've got Adam Fanua-Blake, unbelievable. Mawaki Foraweka, oh my god. Felice Kafusi, experienced ads. Kalamatangi, Jason Tamalolo, Tavita Totola, a bit wank. But David Feeder, very good. Ben Murdoch-Masilla, still very solid. Right, so yeah, overall, the Tongan full pack is much better for me. However, the backline of Samoa, for me, is way better than Tonga's backline. And I think the spine of Samoa is also way better than Tonga's spine. So it comes down to the foundation that is built from the platform that is made from Tonga this game. If they can win the forward battle, Samoa are going to find it tough to utilise their spine and their backs as much as they want to. But if Tonga are not as up to it in the forwards as they need to be, I'm telling you, Samoa will win this game, and they'll win it well. They'll win it well. If Tonga do not muster up the forwards, I'm telling you, they'll lose badly. They'll lose badly. But if they can muster up the forwards, then Tonga should be able to win this game. That's my analysis as we speak. But I'll do a I'll do an actual preview for it sometime this week. To go to the Tonga Samoa quarterfinals deserves an Aussie New Zealand crowd. It deserves a good crowd, absolutely. JBJ says, good to see Brazil and Canada in the Women's World Cup. Clone Commander says, pretty sure most of Brazil's team can't speak English. Well, probably, because they're Brazilian. How does Brazil have a women's team and the blokes don't even play? Well, that's just random. Society Lossie says, Jojo Fafita would also look good in a Matama Tonga jersey. Yeah, he'd qualify. Plus he'd also qualify for Australia probably, and New Zealand. I think he'd qualify 3 teams there. Demi says, Savili, Saliva Havili should go to hooker because he knows how to use the forwards. I agree, but I think he's still injured. Oh no, what's Sir Michael said here? Sir Michael says, where can I see those stats? I don't trust you. Oh no, what's he said? What's Big Papa said? Big Papa's stats said, stats wise per game, missed tackles Samoa 18.7, Tonga 29.3. Ineffective tackles Samoa 7.3, Tonga 13.0. I don't think Big Papa's lying there, because if he was lying, he wouldn't have typed that out like that. Like, it would have just been a lot less professional, but that's obviously a copy and paste job. Chocolate says, Cologne, there's only one JT and he isn't from Tonga. No, get around Jonathan Thurston, what a man. Swerve says score for the Tonga Samoa game. I'll do that on a preview video. Leeds says the Brazil blokes do play. They do play, but they play. Batter Street says England vs 13, Justin Olam. Yeah, it'd be great. Society Solossi says Luai is the best spine player in the match, Milford the worst spine player in the game. That's if they play Milford. I think they will, but in the same sense, they still may go with Chanel Harris Tavita. They may still, go with him instead to partner Luai. I don't know. It's not a bad problem to have. Like, I know we shit on Milford a lot, but it's not a bad problem to have. Milford is still at least a serviceable half. Jamie J says Tonga 5'8", Isaiah Katoa or Junior Amon. Oh, Isaiah Katoa, easy. But I think that's going to do us here for the Tongan section. Let's move on now to the top 3. Like I said, guys, thumbs up, subscribe, and if you do want to donate to the MOvember cause, the nice little MOvember cause here, the pinned comment right there. No matter what you can, I appreciate it. But number 3 here, we got number 3, and it is going to be pretty obvious. It's going to be England. But I will say, I did actually toss and turn over this one. I did consider putting them in 2. I'm not going to lie to you. I did consider putting them in 2. I ultimately decided against it, but it was a question that I had. Their first game, they beat Samoa 60-6. Fantastic result there. But like I said, context. 42-18 in France. Disappointing game there, but still won 42-18. 94-4 over Greece. It doesn't matter who it is you're against. If you score 94 points, you can't make a negative out of that game. They play Papua New Guinea this week. It'll be a really tough test for them. I think that if this World Cup was anywhere but England, I don't think that England would be top 3. I think that if this was in Australia, New Zealand, and whatnot, I think you'd be putting Tonga, Samoa above them. Maybe not Papua New Guinea, Fiji, and whatnot, but I think that you definitely be putting Tonga and Samoa above them. But with this being in England, I think this is really firing them up to succeed, which is obviously what we hoped for, and I think it's working. I do give Papua New Guinea a chance. I do give them a chance to win this week, but it's a tough game in Wigan. It's a very tough game there for them to win against the hosts of the tournament. But yeah, I've got them in 3rd. I could make an argument for them in 2nd. I could make an argument for 2nd, absolutely. But I could also make an argument for them in 5th. But they've won their games by enough. There's no way you drop them off further. And they did beat Samoa 60-6. So although there is plenty of context that needs to be applied to that game, yes, they did still beat them 60-6. That's a fact. JBJ says I don't have England 2, New Zealand 3. No, man. England surely above New Zealand after Greece performance. They beat Greece, lad. Like, they beat Greece. This is the thing that you don't understand. I don't think you understand this kind of stuff. You've got to look at the perspective of the game. Like, it's still just Greece. It's like when the first game, when someone beat Jamaica. Ireland beat Jamaica 48-2. Didn't you say Ireland should be like top 10 or top 8 or some shit, which is not even close to reality? It was against Greece. Like, and Greece clocked off after 20 minutes. I want to say this as well. If you want to actually go deep into this game, England would have scored way less against another team. Greece literally checked out of that game after 20 minutes. If you watched the game, you would have known that Greece literally checked out of that game. That was no. I honestly think that all 15 other teams would beat them in that game. Not by that margin, but even Jamaica would have won that game, and even Scotland would have won that game. Absolutely, and that's a big reason why Greece are last. This game showed a lot more about Greece than it did about England, but England have had good results here. However, Their first 20 minutes of every game has been very, very disappointing. So they need to fix that first 20 minutes against the good teams. Papua New Guinea, I don't necessarily know if they're going to be able to utilise that first 20-minute spell. But after that, you've got Tonga/Samoa. And then after that, you've got Australia/New Zealand, more than likely Australia. It's going to be tough for them to get through that first 20 minutes if Australia goes to a lead of 12-0, 14-0. England aren't coming back from that. England aren't coming back from 12-14-0 down to Australia. So they need to sort that first 20 minutes out very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Society Salossi says, I thought New Zealand had dropped to 3, especially considering semi-final against Australia. Jared suspended. What does the semi-final against Australia got to anything to do with it? We're not even into the semi-finals yet. We're in the quarterfinals. You don't look ahead. Power rankings aren't based on what to look ahead for. New Zealand is still a better chance for me to win this World Cup than, because I think you have to beat Australia to win the World Cup, right? So if New Zealand beat Australia to make the final, then I think New Zealand are the favourites for the World Cup. And I think that whoever beats Australia wins the World Cup. Whoever beats it, whether that's New Zealand in the semi-final or that's England in the final, or Tonga in the final. You have to beat Australia to win the World Cup, and I don't care when it is. If New Zealand win the semi-final over Australia, I believe New Zealand win the World Cup. Richard says, if England pants PNG, then they are contenders. They are contenders regardless. JPJ says, England went well last World Cup in Australia, though. Kind of. Yeah, they lost the final to Australia, though. Zampo says, do you reckon a Roosters Australia's grand final would cause a riot in Sydney? No, not at all. DeGo says, England can beat New Zealand. I don't know about Oz. England can beat New Zealand. I don't think England can beat Australia. No, I don't. I really don't. I don't. But in the same sense, a lot of people said, well, I didn't say this, but a lot of people said, England can't beat Samoa, and they did. But overall, no, I don't believe so. Big Shakes Dom Young breakouts on the star of the tournament. I actually disagree. I think it's actually Edwin Ipape. I actually believe that it could be Edwin Ipape from the Papua New Guinea Comores. Or it could be Dom Young's a good shout, though. Dom Young's a good shout. Wellesby fell off after the first game. I'll personally say Edwin Ipape. But then again, Dom Young's been fantastic too, absolutely. Swerves, I don't think England is overhated. I think that's because you're American. In Australia, England are definitely overhated, but for a reason too, because we're the biggest rivals. Australia and England are the biggest rivals in cricket, biggest rivals in rugby league. Second biggest rival in rugby league. New Zealand and Australia's biggest rivalry there. Union, Australia and England hate each other. Football, not really too much, but then again, we beat them last week and played them 3-1. It's a healthy rivalry between Australia and England, so there's always going to be a lot of hate for them, but you've also got to sit back, be realistic and think, yes, they are still contenders. Chuck Quinlan says, England wouldn't come close to our Prime Minister squad, let alone our squad. Well, they only lost the last final by 6-0, just a reminder. Joshua Penny says, what will be the game of the round? I personally believe it actually could be New Zealand-Fiji, but it's probably going to be Samoa Tonga. Nobel says Tonga forward will dominate Samoa. Yeah, but their backline. Tonga's forwards are fantastic and way better than Samoa's, but Samoa's backline and spine is way better than Tonga's. So I just want to throw that out there. It comes down to, if they do, they need to have a better forward pack. They desperately need it. Brunswick Jacker says England need a few sets to break a formation. Joshua Zampotter says, I'm still not fond of New Zealand so far this World Cup. Neither am I. That's what I'm saying. I could easily put them in third, but I still think that I don't know. I still believe that for me, New Zealand are fairly the second favourites to win this game, this World Cup, fairly. Because it will come down if they can beat Australia or not. And I think if they beat Australia, I think they beat New Zealand, beat England. I will be covering the Women's World Cup. I don't read my own name now. Are you covering the Women's World Cup? I will be JPJ. To go to Luai, if he plays good against Tonga, he's back on to be back with the man of the match. In my opinion, France, the biggest disappointment. They have heaps of players in the Super League to pick from. Them and Scotland, yeah, absolutely. And Irish too, all three of those nations. But I think we move into the next team now, which obviously you guys are going to be very well aware. It's not a change here at all, and that's going to be the New Zealand Kiwis, which means we know who's in number one, but there's no arguments here in regards to who number one is. There can definitely be arguments in regards to 2 and 3. I would be okay if you said England into 2, but I still think New Zealand should be deserved as second favourites. So New Zealand 34-12 over Lebanon. That was a disappointing win for them, but they still won that game. Joe Minor turned it on. Didn't score in the final 15 minutes of the game, though, when there was a send-off. 20 minutes of the game for Adam Dewey, there was a send-off, and they didn't score against him. 68-6 against Jamaica. The handicap was minus 72.5, didn't beat that. And then the Ireland game, can't kick to save their lives. Like, they could not kick a conversion or penalty to save their lives, right? So, pretty disappointing World Cup for them. And I honestly believe Fiji have a chance. 16-1 price is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It should be like 9-1. What Papua New Guinea is paying against England is what Fiji should be paying against New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea should be paying about 5-1 instead of 9-1, right? But yeah, look, I think that I think Fiji have a good chance here, but New Zealand should still win. Jerome Hughes back. He played well against Ireland. I still think they're the second favourite team by a decent bit. But Warrior Hargraves being out will be a big loss to them, but they can definitely cover still. They've got a great forward pack. They've still got the best forward pack in the game. It's just been a really underwhelming World Cup so far in regards to the forward pack. Maybe when they play these bigger games, it might give them a little bit more, I guess, I can't think of the word right now. It might give them a bit more belief in themselves to kind of get more going. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. JBJ says, which of the non-NRL players have impressed in the World Cup would go well in the NRL? There's a video coming out about that literally tomorrow. Demi says, yeah, Tonga's forwards will dominate Samoa with the return of Jason Tamalolo. He already played, so he's returned already. JPJ says, is Hargraves a massive loss considering the depth of the front rows they have? It's not. It's still a decent loss. But overall, it's not as big as people are making it out to be. Malcolm says, when BK going to realise New Zealand number 1? When are you going to realise you're lucky to even be in the top 2 right now? Society Solossi says, Jared gone, New Zealand's been very disappointing. Go Fiji. Should be big. Should be good. Chev says, Malcolm, have you seen them play? Malcolm's very well aware that they should be in top 2. Malcolm is a sad West Ham fan who has a shite team there and also knows that his team in Rugby League World Cup is faltering. So, yeah, don't pay too much attention to the alcoholic ramblings of a West Ham fan named Malcolm. But yeah, he's very well aware of who right now is in number 1, and that is going to be Zibing Bong, Ziding Dong, the Australians. Yes, sir, yes, sir. Biggie Shack says, you said New Zealand had the best forward pack. They do, if they work together well. You know, if they do what they do, their names on paper are definitely the best forward pack in the business. And I'd say, but then and then Tonga, and then Australia. I'd say now, based on the first 3 games, I'd say Tonga, Australia, New Zealand, based on the first 3 games. But New Zealand, on paper, have the best forward pack in the comp with all their depth as well. So, yeah, it's ridiculous how poor they've been this World Cup considering. But I would normally have them as first, but after the first 3 games, I would have them below Tonga and Australia. But moving on now, like I said, Australia into the number 1 spot. We all know that 42-8 win over Fiji. And they're always going to be top 80-40 over Scotland, 66-6 over Italy. Still a disappointing game there and won by 60 points. Play Lebanon this week. They'll probably wild them. You know, wild by like 30 is what I would say. I think Lebanon's been fine and fantastic, and I've loved watching Lebanon. But this would be a massive shock. 81-1, ridiculous pricing there for Lebanon. Fair though, it is a fair pricing for Lebanon, but it's also ridiculous that we're in the quarterfinals and it's an 81-1 shout for the opposition team. I think Australia wins World Cup. I'm sorry, but they're first place, and I think that even their poor performances, they can still win this World Cup by a decent little bit. Their backline's incredible. Their spine is so good that we don't even know our halves still. And then you got the forwards. You got the Origin winning halfback versus the Premiership winning halfback, and people are complaining about the Origin winning halfback not being good enough when he was actually our best player in that game against Italy. So it's a good problem to have. It's a very good problem to have. Dante says, Malcolm, do you go for the Rams in the NFL? Serious question. Malcolm probably goes for, I'd probably say the Green Bay Packers. Saison also says, Man United a big chance top 4. Wank. Brunswick Jaggers says 40-4 Australia to win. Wouldn't surprise me. Have Australia ever played Lebanon? We definitely would have. I don't know when, but we definitely would have. Absolutely. Actually, no, we beat them in the last World Cup by a decent bit, actually. The guy says, doesn't matter who's in the wing. All their players can score Australia's 2 juiced. Absolutely. Richard says, Freddie Fittler's tipped to Lebanon. That's because Freddie Fittler's an idiot. Brunswick Jagger says 2017 Australia beat Lebanon 34-0. Exactly right. And it'll probably be a similar scoreline again. It might even be bigger. It may still be bigger, to be completely honest with you. It may still be quite bigger. Does Malcolm go for Collingwood? No, Malcolm goes for the Warriors because he's a goose. Because he's a goose. The guy is a goose. There you go, guys. That is the rankings for this week, the power rankings for this week. MJ says, do you keep the Hunt and Grant rotation even though Meninga is suggesting DC could be in 17? I think there's not room for DC in the 17 alongside the Hunt and Grant rotation. If anything, I would literally just play Grant. At this moment, Ben Hunt's been underwhelming in this World Cup. I think Grant's been fantastic in this World Cup. Probably my best Australian player so far, yeah. Tedesco pretty close behind too though. I think that if you have Cherry Evans in, you can't have Ben Hunt and Harry Grant. But if you don't have Cherry Evans in, then yeah, you go Ben Hunt, Harry Grant. That's what I personally do. Dennis has just thought every key went for the Rams. He's a muppet. But yeah, look, I think that it's a tough problem for Mel, but it's a good problem. It is a very good problem to have all these quality players fighting for a position, and there are so many players that got left back at home as well that could have been in 95% of the other teams, but obviously just didn't make it. So Hunt said 7, Nathan Cleary 6, Cameron Munster. I hope they would go with the best halves in the world. Yeah, but Cherry Evans and Cleary played really well together, actually. Cherry in the 6 and Cleary in the 7 actually played really well against the Italians. They played really well together. So, I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought process. We have been going for an hour and a half here, guys, so I'm going to jump off here for now. Tomorrow night, we'll probably bring a video out about which player, one player from every single team, and which NRL club that would actually suit best is what we'll do there. I think that'll be a good video to check out tomorrow. So, yeah, we're going to jump off here for now, guys. Obviously, hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you are new around here. I appreciate you as usual. As you guys know, as I've said throughout this stream, we are doing MOvember. I'll be growing this the entire month for men's mental health and men's health in general. So if you do want to support the cause and support the BKRsport fundraising for MOvember, please feel free to donate in the pinned comment in the chat. I will see you guys tomorrow for another video or potentially another stream. We'll see. I don't know if it'll be a stream or a video. I might do a video. We'll see. But like I said, appreciate you, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Catch you later. See ya.